Hello and good morning. This is our last Jen+Juice video for 2019, and I wanted to do something a little bit different today. I was prepping my calendar for the new year, and I came across my goals 2019 sheet. So this is something that I made last year at this time, and it's really crazy to me to look back and see I accomplished every single one of these goals. Well, 2 don't apply because I don't work for the organization anymore, but all the goals that I set out to in 2019 happened, and I just tucked this sheet away in my planner. Honestly, I haven't looked at it maybe 1 or 2 times. I think I revisited it this summer, but I want to tell you today how you can accomplish your goals in 2020 just by doing this process that I did. It's super simple. It takes a little bit of adjusting to your daily routine and your mindset, but I promise you, if you do these things, you will reach your goals and then more, because I think in about 6 months I had all of these, and the process that I developed catapulted my life into new possibilities. So 2019 was a huge year for me of self-growth and personal development. I started therapy, and that was an amazing experience that I got a ton out of. And I've never had a diagnosis for anything beyond anxiety, which resolved with my chronic illness. But with the diagnosis, I had no mental health disorder. But I want to encourage you that I had it through my insurance when I worked for an organization, and I used it, and it was so helpful to overcome some of the challenges. I went to conferences, I jumped out of my comfort zone and joined groups. I started public speaking. I started a blog, which was one of my goals that turned into a business, which was one that took me further. So I'm going to give you a little bit about my daily and weekly routine of how I accomplished my goals in 2019, and this will work for you in 2020. So the first thing I did is I wrote them all out, because our goals, you have to write them down and they have to be specific. So some of these I did personal, work and school, and then God, and then future. I didn't really know exactly what type of goals I wanted, so I just wrote down in 4 categories. That's what came up with. And in my personal box, I wrote I wanted to start a blog. I did that in April, and by June it turned into a business, which was really amazing. For work, when I still worked for the organization, I wanted to get a certification exam out of the way, and I did that. And then some of the non-specific goals is I wanted to trust that God's plans for me were bigger and more mind-blowing than I could ever imagine. So writing these down helped me get specific goals and clear on what I wanted to do. But then what I had to do after that is I remember tucking this into my planner, and I sat there through each goal, and I started to embody the identity of the person who accomplished this goal, what she would look like. So a graduate student who got all A's in graduate school, check. I had to think, how does that woman carry out her day-to-day life? Is she dedicated to her studies? Is she saying no to, for me, I have to say no to people pleasing and put aside other people's agendas for my day and be like, nope, I have this commitment to myself. I have this commitment to my studies. I can't do that. I can't show up for that. Even work. I can't stay after for that meeting. I'm sorry. No, I can't take one more patient today. I'm sorry. So I started to embody all the identities of what these goals entailed. I wanted to become my healthiest self yet. And I was like, okay, well, what does that look like? For me, that looks like shut your dang phone off before you go to bed, get to bed earlier, get up earlier, get your workout in the first thing of the day. And then one process that I developed that was hands down the most important thing I did is after I wrote out these goals, I visualized them. As I embodied this identity, I thought, okay, I saw myself doing them. And as I created this reality in my mind, your subconscious doesn't know the difference between reality and what you're telling it. So I told my subconscious, you have done all of these things, all of them, like you've done them, check. And I just visualized it and thought about it. I felt what it would already feel like to be my healthiest self, to do this certification exam, to finish the first year of graduate school with a great GPA, to fully trust in God, which was was hard for me at that point. And then also one was to pay off all my debt. And I did that. So I experienced what that feeling would be like, how good it would feel to hit submit on that last credit card payment, and then how it would feel to finish school. And I made that a reality before it already happened, because your subconscious doesn't know the difference, and it will weave in and find the way and make that pathway, that neural pathway that doesn't exist, it will go before you and do that. So that was really important. Then I tucked this sheet in my planner for the next 6 months, and I didn't even look at it, because in my mind I had this identity that I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. So every day, this was a really critical part. I started getting up really early. I like mornings now that I'm healed. When I was at the height of my chronic illness, I could not get out of bed at an early hour. It was super hard. But I started waking up at 5, going to the gym or going to yoga first thing in the day. And then when I got home or got to work, when I was still working for an organization, before I clocked in or on a lunch break, I did my devotional time. And during that time, I would journal just out anything that was on the forefront of my mind that I needed to release. And then I would do a devotional, and then I would write, I call it GPA. So I was always trying to raise my GPA. I did my gratitude. What am I grateful for? It could be easy things like my dog sitting here chewing on a bone, just how sweet she is, or the house I live in, or just like in springtime, I remember writing how grateful I was for like the wildlife coming to bloom. And then my prayers, things that were on my heart that, and maybe other people too, but things I really needed to see God come through for me on. And then affirmations. I wrote down just what I was saying, like, these things are already true about me. I get all A's in my graduate courses. I am a website builder, I am a blogger, or I am a writer, or whatever, before it was even true, because that's part of creating the systems that will achieve your goals. So that's something I did every day. I did devotional time. I wrote down GPA every single day, even when I didn't feel like doing it. And something about goals is when you're setting big goals, and I'm looking at my goals for 2020 and I'm like, okay, those are pretty lofty, and that's good. If they don't scare you, they're not big enough. But the thing is, when you write them down, we have to create a system and fall in love with the process, because what happens on your way to that goal, you're telling yourself that, oh, I cannot be happy unless I've achieved that thing, or I cannot be happy unless I have that thing. And with a goal, creating a system is going to get you there. So think about it like, after you achieve that goal, if you don't have a system in place that you really have fallen in love with the process and brings you joy, you'll just be deflated after that. So create the systems around your goals that will help you take you to the next level. And it does get hard. About halfway in, the new year, everything's really exciting, but then let's say like early spring, it's been a couple months and things start to get hard and you maybe not see progress. But think about, this is the analogy that I really like. Sage says hello. So think about an ice cube sitting outside at 28 degrees. It's frozen, right? 29 degrees, it goes up a degree. Doesn't really feel much difference. 30 degrees, you're moving up a degree. Okay, it still feels pretty cold outside. 31 degrees, the ice cube is still in the same form, but the temperature has significantly increased. But at 32 degrees, you start to see change in the ice cube melt and the forms start to change. So that's you. Every day you are changing a little bit by a little bit by a little bit by a little bit. And sometimes you don't see any huge breakthroughs or overcoming barriers or that goal starts to happen until you really hit that 32 degrees. And I don't know when and where that will be for you, but I know for a lot of goals that I had and that I recommitted to at 6 months, I haven't got there yet and I haven't seen change, but it's falling in love with the process that brings you joy, that is changing your identity about yourself into a more positive, into your better self that will help you reach your goals. And there's one thing I know to be true, and is if you absolutely do not give up on something and you embody the reality of that goal and who that person is that achieves that goal, you will get there. It's just a matter of time. So I challenge all of you to write out your 2020 goals. You can share them with me. I'd love to see them, or just stick them away and really do the visualization process and start to think about like who that person is and who you need to become as your best self to achieve these goals, because they're doable. And that potential, that stirring in your heart, that vision that you have that is just nagging at you, that is your potential. That is like God shaking you, being like, listen, I need you to do this. Wake up to your potential. So don't diminish. I thought, starting a blog, it would be silly. And I was like, who would ever read it? Or starting this page, or starting to try to reach all of you, just because I wanted to help people with their health. And it's turned into something much greater, and a business that I really enjoy, and other opportunities that I never thought I would have. And that all started with me writing it down and sitting there thinking about what it would look like, me typing on a computer the articles and the posts that I wanted to make. So I encourage you, write down your 2020 goals, visualize them, and then create a system that will get you there, because every day you need to see what are you aiming at. And if you wake up every day and you do not have clarity and intentionality for your day, you're not going to move the needle forward. So every week, what I would do on Sunday is I would write down the things that I need to do in the week. And then every day, the night before, I would either send myself a text or write it in my planner, hour by hour, or block time by block time, every 4 hours, what am I doing in the day? And I had to stick to that unless something really important came up, so I would get the task done I needed to achieve my goals. And that began to change who I saw myself as someone who does achieve her goals and who does accomplish the things that she promised herself, and who is successful in the areas that she cares about. So happy New Year, everyone. 2020, we have some really fun stuff coming up. We're going to kick off 2020 on the 2nd with a video series about PCOS, endometriosis, and women's hormone health. So join us for that, and I want to see your goals. Drop them below in the comments or send them to me through your inbox. Thanks.